am on Twitter, and my profile there calls me as a cheer coach. So that's a self-appointed designation. Brand idea brings a huge amount of clarity. Brand ideal places you in the societal context, right? So those constructs are not outdated. They're still there. They're still relevant. But what defines you in consumers' mind today is the layering on top of these two. How do you interact? How do you interact with me? How do you interact with your users? How do you interact with your detractors? Whatever you say about your brand would only be a fraction of what people hear about your brand. It's a very interesting construct in today's world. So Durex will never do a campaign straight up. They'll start a debate. So they did this. The most famous in this is the Mutual Climax campaign that they had done, and in which they talked about women faking orgasm, and that was the topic. They started that topic, and then they came with the product straight in the middle of all this heated discussion, and the campaign did quite well.
So, alternate profession could have been?
Halwai.
What would you do on Mars for fun?
Play Kho-Kho.
Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Jasravee. Subscribe to my channel for conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the branding, marketing, and the business world. Conversations that ignite new ideas with rough, sharp edges. Hi, Neeraj. So nice to have you on my show.
Hi, Jasravee. Very happy to be here. We've been talking about it for quite some time. And finally, we are here. Yeah. Great to be here.
Yeah, same here. So, Neeraj, if I requested you to tweet your profile, what would you say?
So, I am on Twitter, and my profile there calls me as a cheer coach. So that's a self-appointed designation in which I try to lighten things up, and that's what I've been doing since the time I came into advertising, which was long time ago. And the atmosphere was very different at that time, and I had people who were always lightening things up. So that's what I call myself. I'm a cheer coach, a coach because I'd like to mentor people. So, and cheer because I like to have happiness and lightness around.
Lovely. When you said it's been many years since you got into advertising and your relationship with brands started, on the canvas, Neeraj, if I say, pick some schools of branding that clicked with you, and if you had to talk about them with examples.
Sure. So actually, my relationship with advertising started before I became an advertising professional. So my father was in marketing, and so the marketing bug got to me quite early. And in earlier days, there used to be a newspaper called A&M. So I still have copies that I've collected over the years, and I used to follow. I think around class 11th or 12th, I started following. So I have been, and there are so many. So rather than schools of branding, there have been so many brands that have been an inspiration, and I've been following them throughout. So in those earlier days, you would recall that there was a brand called Wills, and cigarette advertising was not banned at that time. And I remember there would be a half-page ad that would always come: Wills made for each other. So that was one kind of, using print in a very simple way. So they never showed anybody smoking, but it was a brand that talked about made for each other, which later on one realized that they were talking about filter and tobacco, but there was always this couple which seemed to be made for each other. So that's how early that I started. But when I joined MICA was the time that I immersed myself into advertising. And that time, the kind of advertising that used to happen was more around brand ideas. So that's the kind of school that I was taught, and all the conversations were around brand ideas. That what's the idea of your brand, and if your brand doesn't have an idea, it will pass away like a ship in a dark night. And that's a famous saying by David Ogilvy. So we all used to talk about that, and brand ideas was the big thing that we learned about. We all spent time understanding, and that's what we practiced initially. The most popular brand idea in my head, and at that time also, was Lux, filmi sitaro ka saundarya sabun. So in a brand idea, in fact, we still talk about brand ideas. Brand ideas as a concept has not gone away. In fact, I was just talking the other day to some team member, and I was saying that brand idea is a layer that makes people connect with your brand, right? It's the emotive layer on top. You can, and recently, and you can, check it on Amazon. And that's the example that I was sharing with the team. These guys, Gillette guys, have a razor, and so Venus is their brand, and they launched a small razor. And earlier they just called it, small razor, mini. It was called Venus Mini, and it was there in the market. They didn't and not doing much traction at all. Right now they have relaunched it, and they have called it the Venus Snap. And there's a lot of communication that has been built around it, and they have layered it with an idea that connects with the audience that they want to talk to. And it's practically the same product, but you should see the way they have converted a functional product into a brand idea, and how they have taken it across packaging. How it's a really a very interesting case study, which is here and now, and I just chanced upon it. So
so many images, it conjures up so many images. Suddenly there's a whole, like a brand world.
So that's what a brand idea brings into the picture. So there are soaps and soaps and soaps, right? But when Lux says filmi sitaro ka saundarya sabun, it doesn't change anything in the lather. It's not talking about but it's creating that aspiration. It's creating the aspiration that was relevant at that time. And the idea kept on evolving. So filmi sitaro ka saundarya sabun became mujhme star jagaye, right? When the empowerment and the things happened, and there would be people who would have worked on the brand. So that journey of the brand idea was the other aspect, that it just needs to be relevant to that time. It needs to be relevant to the audience. And the brand idea would bring so much energy, like you said, visual imagery. Suddenly, Mujhme Star Jagaye creates one kind of imagery. The Filmi Sitaro Ka Saundarya Sabun creates another kind of imagery. Right. So brand ideas were the currency. They still are important. You need to have an idea. But somewhere in late 90s, 2000s, the trend came of purpose. That don't just have an idea, fulfill a purpose in society. So that was the other paradigm shift that I saw, that from a brand idea, the conversation moved to what Ogilvy called brand ideal. So brand ideal became important, that don't just have an idea, make a difference to the world, make a difference to society. And the most famous example there that Ogilvy also talks about is Dove. When they went and spoke about real beauty, Dove already had a brand idea of 1/4 moisturizer. So that was core to the brand. The brand idea was there. It was a differentiated brand. But as the world was evolving, that idea was not enough. What is your role in the world? What's your purpose in the society? And that's where Dove took the stance of, promoting real beauty, that, break away these facades, and our upbringing of girls is not correct. And the first commercial that they ran was not even a commercial. So the first that a lot of us would have seen, that a model how she transforms from being a regular girl to Photoshop, then put on billboard, and how that impacts our idea of beauty. That was one internet film that they made, and they ran it couple of times. But the kind of impact they were able to get through that was awesome. And the planner who taught us about that case study, John Shaw said that, we discovered after doing this that actually it's a new construct. It's a different construct. It's not a brand idea, it's a brand ideal. So John Shaw used to go from office to office, training us all about what a brand ideal concept is. And it's a very simple framework he introduced. But that's just Ogilvy.
Yeah.
We had similar things that happened in other agencies. Somebody called it the love mark. Somebody called it the humankind brand. So everybody, and there was this era that happened that, hey, you can't just be talking about your idea. You need to speak about the difference that you make in the society, your purpose. So brand purpose. And it became so popular that even an atta chakki wanted to have a purpose. So that's the extreme it went to. And so many examples. There was a lovely piece that got done for Parle-G. So Parle-G also, you would have seen the commercial Rokomat Tokomat. Lovely piece done on purpose, but didn't work so well for the brand. I don't know why, but I don't see that campaign running anymore. I didn't work on it, so I don't know the exact details. But when the campaign came out, everybody said, wow, beautifully written piece, very relevant purpose that, okay, G mane genius, and genius comes by you experimenting. So the whole thought of Rokumat, Tokumat. So that was another, another brand ideal that got done.
Neeraj, they did one recent ad where they redefined the genius, and there was genius wahi jo dusron ki khushi ke liye kuch kare. Again, kids as a catalyst. But I thought that was very interesting. I mean, since we are talking about ideal.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what's happening, and brands are evolving. See, G for genius, that itself was not a bad space, right? I'm saying that they had such quirky communication and they have done interesting. But as the world is evolving, and which is where this is not the construct gets outdated. It's more like something new has come up, right? And you want to be part of that. It's more an evolution. So an idea evolves. So Dove 1/4 moisturizer evolving into a purpose, into an ideal. So that's how the journey is. And purpose stayed quite popular for some time. It is just that everybody and anybody wanted to have a purpose, and sometimes the purpose was not connected with what they were doing, and sometimes it was just lip service that was done for purpose. Just before pandemic, when the Olympics was there, Toyota took on the purpose of mobility, and they were doing very interesting work. I remember I was at Spikes, and Toyota was the sponsor there. So lots of stuff around mobility, and as to how in Olympics they were going to create a new set of vehicles which will be very useful for those with disabilities, and taking them to the centers, taking them back from their buses where the things go on ground. So very interesting work that they were doing around. So everybody was talking about purpose, and how many purposes can there be in the world? So after some time, that became that brands started to look alike. They started to look the same. And also digital world has questioned some of these things, that that your idea, that's your idea, it's one way. Ideal, it belongs to the community, but it is still the brand talking about belonging to the community. What the digital world is looking for is interaction or experience. And that's the third paradigm that I've seen, that ideal now is changing into interaction. That people now don't think so much about what's your brand idea. It's not so much, it's how you interact with me, because that's the way that I experience you. That's the way that I get to know more about you. So not just my interaction, I listen to the user's interaction, how you respond to your users. So the brand interaction has become very, very important thing today. And there are so many examples through which people, form opinions. There are controversies also that are a testimony to this. That so this Pepsi case, you would remember, they took out one ad with Kendall Jenner, and suddenly there was a furor that, hey, this is not the right way to be, right? And you can't solve as police interaction, police brutality, by just giving one Pepsi. And they hadn't intended that ad to be in that direction, but it got picked up like that, and they withdrew the ad immediately. So how you respond to such things, how you interact with your community, how you interact with your audience, so all these interactions, there's a grounding of reality also in this, not an exalted thing that you talk about, but what do you really do on the ground? So that's the brand interaction filter or the paradigm that's coming in. And that's my conversation these days with a lot of brand owners, that, hey, that's fine, you have an idea, you probably have an ideal also, and it's great to have those. It gives clarity. See, what's the good thing about an idea and an ideal? It gives you clarity. It gives you a very simple and easy way to talk about yourself. Brand idea brings a huge amount of clarity. Brand ideal places you in the societal context, right? So those constructs are not outdated. They're still there. They're still relevant. But what defines you in consumers' mind today is the layering on top of these two. How do you interact? How do you interact with me? How do you interact with your users? How do you interact with your detractors? What kind of interaction system you are building is defining my perception of you, more than what you have put out as the ideal, more than what you have put out as the idea. So that's how I'm seeing the evolution. Probably a bit conceptual.
No, very interesting, because it's like if your ideal is your best version, I want to know how you appear in life every day. So every day, your stance on things, your spoken word as well as your action, that will decide how relevant you are in my life. So absolutely. That is where the whole authenticity and transparency aspect also comes in. This is very interesting, Neeraj. In that context, does it say something about how we are relying more on each other and word of mouth or communities? Like our existence in a network. So would you like to elaborate on that? Because, like you said, it's an evolution. What does it say about us?
Totally. Before elaborating, I think you put it so nicely, and that's something, again, we chat a lot with clients, that the brand is built every day today. You don't do one event, you don't do one blitz of communication. When I joined advertising, we used to plan for 6 to 8 months, and then there'll be a burst of, say, 2 weeks, and then after a gap, we'll come back. So there were bursts of advertising, and that's how brands were built. Yeah, and it's not long ago. It's in my lifespan I've seen that. My working lifespan I've seen that. Today, and so well put, the brands are built every day. So every day, when your brand is being built, it is built basis what you do, and it's built basis the other conversations that are happening around your brand. And it's a very interesting construct you're talking about. And when I'm teaching in some colleges, I do bring it a point, and there's a statement that I put on a slide, and I pause there, that whatever you say about your brand would only be a fraction of what people hear about your brand. It's a very interesting construct in today's world. And I'll repeat it again, and I pause on this slide, because no matter how much information you put out, there are conversations that are happening. Yeah? There's nothing that you can do about controlling. The example that I share when I'm doing this is the example of, say, Kerala tourism. Now, Kerala, there was an incident at a moment when the dogs killing was one topic that was being discussed, right? So whenever that Kerala tourism, they're putting an ad, people will go below, comment and put pictures, put graphic content. So no matter what you are saying, the conversation is going somewhere else. Similar thing happened with Snapchat and Snapdeal, that kind of thing. Snapchat CEO said something, and there was a thing of boycott Snapdeal. So there are lots of conversations that are happening around your brand, which are not initiated by you. So in a nutshell, your communication and what the consumer hears will never be one ever again. It will be a fraction. Okay, so whatever you put out will only be a percentage. Now, what percentage depends on how popular your brand is, how much people love or hate it, right? So what that content will, and there's some interesting, anecdotes. I'll share one that in my working life happened on Samsung. So Samsung, Amitabh Bachchan put out a tweet saying that there is a complaint on his Samsung phone. Right. So first people panned him that, you are a brand ambassador for OnePlus. He was too. you are, why do you have a Samsung phone? So that's the first thing happened. And then when he had trouble, the first round of things came. Oh, even celebrities are having trouble with Samsung. This, that, and that thing happened. Samsung got into the act and they fixed the phone. Then people trolled, oh, for celebrity, they do it so quickly. For us, we are waiting. So there's nothing that you can do that people won't troll you for. Right. So people, there will be people who will be with you. There will be people who will be against you, no matter what you do around. So the importance of conversations, which we used to call word of mouth. So the difference in word of mouth and conversations for me is, word of mouth used to be one-on-one. It used to be in a limited scale, right? Conversations now are out there. You put out a tweet, so many people can see it. Suddenly it starts doing viral, right? So suddenly that tweet starts trending, and it can happen anytime for anything. So these, us existing in a network of conversation is the reality. It's not something that any brand can ignore. In fact, that's why brands are investing in what they call command centers. So there's continuous monitoring all the time. And most good brands have got a system of listening. So listening is a great tool for brand building today, wherein you need to know what are the conversations that are happening around and be watchful basis that. And then you react to some, you choose not to react to some. That's up to you. But that thinking that people will not be saying things which are positive or negative about you, then you're not in the right era. In today's era, there will always be chatter. Your communication to your consumers and what your consumer receives will never be one. It will only be a fraction. Now, how big that fraction is depends from brand to brand, category to category. But kuch to log kahenge.
Neeraj, isn't that such a loss of control for a brand? Like it's really like the power equation has changed big time, because I'm going to listen to Neeraj about what he says about Lux rather than only Lux telling about itself. So so there is an anchor, there is an idea, there's an ideal, and you are doing interaction also. But is there a way you can use these conversations because your control on what you are going to put out there is lesser? So is there any example that they have brands are using these conversations, whether it is in the content or we'll come to the other aspect of the tale of two campaigns. If you want to cover it there, we can do it there. But this whole thing of how either you get intimidated by the fact that I have no control, or you use it and you let it be shaped. At least a part of your core is in consumers' hands. Anyways, the brand is in the consumer's head.
Totally.
Yeah.
In fact, very interesting. This thing of control, forget about it. There is no way in today's world any brand controls. I'm using the word control, the narrative. You can influence it. You cannot control it. So control ke din ja chuke hain. Whether it is in media, whether these days, even the press release that a brand puts out, it's a press release. Brand has spent time writing that press release, gives it to the press. Press does Google search, whatever they find on the net, they take that as the truth and they improvise the press release. So that's the kind of control you have on narrative today. Best is to not think of it as a control. Look at it as what's going out, how you're responding to it, how are you interacting, and keep on developing basis that. You would have heard lots of clients talk today about, beta testing, that, I took out 2 kinds of ads and which one worked, I go follow that.
A/B testing. Yeah.
A/B testing. Then there are concepts like optimization in media, right? That this creative is working better, I do. So this changing the sense of control to dynamic working is the change that is required in the head. That's a paradigm shift. But now let's come back to the other thing, very, very interesting thing that you're talking about. How can you use it to your advantage? So you would have seen something done by Burger King just yesterday. So Burger King, Leo Burnett has done this campaign for Burger King. Raj Deepak Das and has posted it on LinkedIn. I saw it there. That they have used the brand ambassador very differently, making it seem like that the brand has surreptitiously taken him for endorsement. So there's a scenario where Hrithik Roshan is coming out, from and going to his vanity van, and suddenly they have put a poster of Burger King behind him, while paparazzi is clicking him, and it seems like that he's been had, and surreptitiously they have done that. It is not. It's a campaign only. But rather than doing straight up, so now people would be having conversations around it. So I've spent some time at Publici, and we used to, Leo Burnett was so there, the lot of focus was on conversations. What can fuel these conversations? So once we did a campaign with Ranbir Singh, and we were launching the Philips LED, bulbs. We, on our own, released a surreptitiously short video. So we, like camera phone badly filmed, that kind of video we shot of our own set, as if it has got leaked, and we put it out as a leaked video. So that because what Ranbir was doing in that campaign was he was reprising Amitabh Bachchan's song Sara Zamana, and that costume that he wore with all the bulbs. So that was a very interesting idea that the creative team came up with, that if you are launching LED bulbs, what is the iconic image of bulb? Is Amitabh Bachchan dancing Sara Zamana wearing that bulb ka suit. Now, can we change those that filament bulbs to LED bulbs? Fantastic idea. It got approved straight up. And we did that campaign. But to make the campaign more interesting, we thought like Bollywood. Like they have all these affair stories when the film is going to come up, and there are these things. So I said, why don't we also say that somebody went and shot and we don't know? It's a leaked video. Let consumers start thinking about it, talking about it. So that's one stunt that we tried. So there are a lot of ways that you can use this influence, because you know how people will react, right? You can predict that to some extent, that if you have a leaked video, people will want to share it further. There was something that My maths teacher told me when I was in school many years ago, he told us that chapter 7 के अंदर ना पेज 25 और 27 मत पढ़ना, कंफ्यूजन हो जाएगी, एंड क्लास में मैं समझा दूंगा. Next day he came, everybody had read, and everybody saying, sir, koi confusion nahi thi. Says, yeah, exactly. Had I told you to read it, you guys would not have done that. There is all these things in our psychology. We act in a certain way, right? So you can use this influence, you can use this chatter to that advantage. And one of the brands that I was working at, Havas, Durex, uses that very well. So Durex will never do a campaign straight up. They'll start a debate, right? They'll have one celebrity tweeting something, then somebody else would reply to them. There'll be a conversation that's going around a topic, and then they come up with their campaign. So they did this. The most famous in this is the Mutual Climax campaign that they had done, and in which they talked about women faking orgasm, and that was the topic. They started that topic, and then they came with the product straight in the middle of all this heated discussion, and the campaign did quite well. So with you totally, this influence can be used. There are ways of using it. There are brands that are using it already. So and everybody should give it a thought that, how would people react, and how can we get them on our side, right? And
Absolutely,
it's a
yeah,
very important thing to do.
yeah. Neeraj, this whole thing, if this whole content creation and engagement is looked at from this lens, that how am I going to show up every day so my brand
Right.
thinks I know what they want, I know them, or in their life I matter. How am I going to show up every day considering my idea is this, my ideal is this, and this is the
Right.
mind's real estate in the mind that I want to be to inhabit. I mean, the engagement will not be such a big problem. Like today, this whole discussion, how do I engage my consumer? I can't sell all the time. I know that. Fine, I've assimilated that. But how do I engage their attention? And like you were
True.
talking about, so many ideas, so many behavioral science principles have been used, which, this familiarity with the twist came to my mind straight away. This whole thing, like you are familiar with what Bollywood does, and you're putting a
Yeah.
twist to, how a brand would do. And there's the twist is it not, it's lovely, lovely examples, Neeraj.
Yeah, and you, like you said, you have to think in those terms, because this dilemma of engagement is true. There is so much content, yeah, and every day so much more is created, right? There's more content that can ever be watched in the world, right? Even if everybody sits down and is just watching content, then also this won't get over, right? So that's the whole dilemma. And this daily thing is very interesting, that even with human beings, it's our regular interaction that builds the brand, right? The human brand, the human connection. You don't have to say a big thing every time, right? You may come, even a hello, consistently. If you say a hello, like there's so many memes that they have, that teacher, how they welcome students inside. I remember seeing a short video. One primary teacher, she has 4 options, that you want a high five, you want to do a jig or whatever. So students will come, touch one, and they will do that kind of interaction. So little things on a daily basis, consistently, right? So consistency is the key there. So you do big one once in a while, it stays in memory, but little things every day, nudging every day, getting them to think about you, and the feeling that you create. So that's the other topic very close to my heart, that what is brand at the end of the day? It's a feeling, how you make me feel. Whether you are a pen that I'm writing with, or it's a phone that I'm interacting with, or this computer which I'm, how do you make me feel? That's where the brand sits, no? And wo daily में भी है, वो once in a while में भी है. Once in a while में क्या होता है, then it has to be big bang, then it has to be, something larger. So that's where we put our brains and सब मिलके बैठ के करते हैं that, now what will be the next campaign,
Why
right?
don't
But
you talk about the examples of these two campaigns, Neeraj?
sure,
How we did campaigns then, and how,
sure,
like you call it, little executions, coming
yeah,
together.
yeah,
Uh, just put it in
sure,
perspective. I mean, because when you put it in perspective, one can see it's so starkly different.
yeah. So true. So earlier in the day, and this was one of my first major campaign at Ogilvy. It was for Cadbury Dairy Milk, and we were shifting the complete proposition, and we had done one round of communication on it, which had not got much traction. So Cadbury Dairy Milk is about shared joy, the pleasure of eating, and glass and a half of milk is internationally there. But what they were talking about was दिल को जब खुशी छू जाए कुछ मीठा हो जाए was the thing. And the first round of campaign, after a lot of research we had done, was about little moments that bring out joy in your life. So they, and insightful, that's where Ogilvy creative takes the cake. Small insights, like you're going through the list of people who have passed and your name is last, right? So the joy that you get after seeing your name, after going through 499 names, the 500th yours. So that kind of small little joys, and that's how the campaign was done. But the we did a lot of research. We spent months and months, trying to figure it out as to why it didn't work. Right. So that was the first round. Beautiful campaigns. You should Google and check them out. So the joy that kids get when the school gets shut because of monsoon. So that was another insight. Joy that you get if you get three aces while playing cards. Beautiful metaphors, but it didn't work. So we did again another round of research to realize that these are joys, but these are not the joys in which a chocolate is consumed. So the brand could not appropriate these joys. So that was the problem. And that's where the shift came to, from small joys to bigger joys. And one big joy was about passing an exam. So that was the first big campaign that I did at Ogilvy. Pappu pass ho gaya. So दिल को जब खुशी हो छू जाए कुछ मीठा हो जाए was refrain somewhere there in the communication, but the big joy was passing an exam. And to make it quirky, they showed the journey of a guy who took some 12-15 years to pass his 12th ka exam, and that's where the whole communication was. But the way we worked those days, there was a whole amount of time spent researching, double checking, coming up with something. And then when it is before it is going out, we would do what we used to call the complete 360 around it. So if your campaign line is Pappu pass ho gaya, you'll do your print around it. You'll do your outdoor around it, and all these collaterals, all these elements get built. Then Ogilvy being Ogilvy, you'll push it and you'll see that what else can we do. So there were interesting radio spots of Pappu's sister, Pappu's teacher, how they were very surprised and all. So that all happened. And pushing it further, they took it in real life, even at that time. I'm talking about 2004, 2005. They did a tie-up of actual mass marks ka SMS. So at that time, we didn't have internet so busy that you can go and check out the results. You could send an SMS and get a revert back. So that service had just started that year. So tied up with that the person who passed, usko bola jayega Pappu pass ho gaya. Then Amitabh Bachchan used to host KBC. Uske program mein, when you cross one level, Pappu pass. So this whole campaign was done. It was conceptualized. And what I'm trying to point out is that there was time spent. There was a huge pre-planning that happened, conceptualized, then executed in a short time frame. Right. So that's the journey of the how campaigns got done when I joined advertising, to say 2000, joined ad agency. Contrast that with how things happen right now. So right now, there you may come across something, and something may look innocuous, right? It would be like we were talking about using influencers, using trends. You may find some influencer doing something which you don't understand then, but later on maybe the pieces will join up. So recent example, I came across Twinkle Khanna, doing something, and it's talked about कि तुमको पता है नहीं पता है, so that kind of thing. So I was wondering, what is that happening? Then you saw some other communication, and then finally it revealed that Alia Bhatt has done a commercial for Netflix in which it's talking about the price drop. So that's the kind of campaign that Netflix is doing, and in which there were small little influencer bits that happened before. Then there was one commercial that was there, and then there were follow-up tactical ads. That's the campaign that I saw. And there was a lot of interaction and influencers and their followers joining into the campaign. So the whole mode of campaign has changed from long-term planning, a pocket of influence, to sprinkle that's happens. There's a communication that happens. There are influencers, followers that catch up the campaign, and how the campaign builds up now. So I see a big difference in how the campaigns were planned earlier to how campaigns get planned here and now, and also the focus media. That what we were talking about Durex also, that now TVC just is one of the mediums, right? It's not the main medium, and at times the closing line also changes by different media. So that is also happening as long as you are in the same zone. Earlier, when we had Pappu Paas Ho Gaya, that was the same line that went everywhere, and it was so popular it became a catchphrase. Midday started reporting, that if something good has happened, Pappu Paas Ho Gaya. So those kind of things that happened at that time, that was a very different way of campaign development. And today, what is happening is a very new, different, more real time, with A/B testing, as we were talking about. Which one works better, that gets promoted in which audience. So there's a lot of media creative interaction that keeps on happening. That's how I see that campaign wise also there's a difference.
So Neeraj, what do you see as the challenge for strategic planners today? Because anyways, there are different people coming together. Like there's a digital team, an e-commerce team, then the whole funnel thinking of mofu, tofu, bofu is going to be there, right? So there is ideation happening at every level. Every person involved is ideating, and there is a conventional planner saying, "Hello, this is the core. Let it not erode," or a client who still believes in those things, and everybody's like, "Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? This is current. This is tactical. This will do something. We have to respond, etc., etc." So conventional brand thinking and the new brand thinking, like you said, that it will connect at some point in time. The two things could connect, could not connect, but it's still relevant. You can still do it because it's not. I mean, I have to anyways. The brand has to show up today. You like you said, it can't wait for 6 months and then boom, impact. That can't work, right? So what is the challenge for the strategic planner who wants to be relevant in all the mediums and perhaps influence through the core, and yet allow the core also to be a little bit malleable, little flexible, because times are changing fast?
True. So the first change that I've seen and planners make and all is that rather than sticking with the line, they stick with the zone.
Mm.
So that's the first thing that I've seen a lot of planners do. That you know the way you'll have to express yourself in digital, which is more interaction oriented, versus the way you'll need to express yourself in a TVC, right? They both can be different sometimes. As you said, the client, it may not meet because in digital you need to not complete, and you need to give a trigger for interaction. Because if the digital communication stays as one way, then I've done half my job. I want something to happen post me, talking to you. Either you click a button, you press like, you share, or you interact, you answer a question, something. There has to be an interaction. And that's why my trigger has to be in that direction. Whereas in ATL, I'd like to give what's the message from my side, right? If I don't close it with a summary that says that this is what I mean, then it's an incomplete communication. You have not utilized your GRPs well. So earlier we would have the aha moment, say in a script, कि ये moment है, so people could identify that also. We'll do a link test and वहां पे हो जाएगा. Abhi now, where is that aha moment going to be? Is one struggle. So even the guys who have moved from conventional, right? So that's what planners are learning, more about. That how do I say कि अच्छा ये हो रहा है ना? This is what will be the thing. It's becoming difficult to pick. It's becoming to put the finger on the pulse. Like you'll see a few years ago, Dumb Ways to Die was winning everything. And it was a great campaign that happened. Now, what was in Dumb Ways? Was it the jingle? Was it those cartoon characters? Was it the fact that they got cut? It was also a game, right? People interact. It was also a song. It was also a ringtone, right? It was also those messaging.
And it was the first time that death was being talked about in this manner.
Yeah. So that was the insight. That was the lovely insight that they worked from. So all these aspects. So what's going to be the connecting idea? Like you said, that insight became the connecting zone. That we should talk about death. We'll talk about the dumb ways to die. So the idea was in the line, finally, right? And this is also a few years ago. But how to bring it out, that becomes the struggle. And that's a dilemma for a planner. Okay, what part of this will connect with people? That edge that you spoke about, as you were talking about ideas at the edge, what will give that push to the campaign so that it becomes a blockbuster?
Mother's best advice.
Don't talk to strangers.
Seriously. Alternate profession could have been?
Halwai.
What would you do on Mars for fun?
Play Kho.
As per your wife, your most often used phrase.
Don't drag me into this.
Good one. One thing no one knows about you.
That I got some leaked papers for boards many years ago.
Seriously. Okay. A book you'd like to gift to all your friends.
Simplicity by Edward de Bono.
Okay.
Love the book.
Your favorite childhood memory?
Was driving my dad's red Maruti when I was underage. So I've had great fun in that car.
What's a lesson that took you a long time to learn?
Yeah, I still haven't learned it, but about saying no to certain things, I still not learned that lesson, what to say no to.
So Neeraj, why don't you tell us a little bit about your talent? The whole idea is our audiences get to see that personal side of you too. What are you going to show us?
It's not talent per se, but it's a
Okay.
passion. It's something that I love. I love collecting gadgets. So I have something really here to show you, and I'll bring it closer. This is called the iPack, and it's the predecessor of iPhone. So iPack with this screen and a stylus that went along with it, and it had Windows Mobile as the software, came before iPhone was released, and I was one of the first and few people to buy it. It wasn't that popular, so that was there. And then, as soon as the iPad came, this is the first iPad version. Drum roll. So I still have it, and I went, and I remember it wasn't available in India, so I went to Singapore to buy this. The model that I wanted was not available, so I picked this up. Like that, I have picked up before the personal hotspots became famous. There were little devices that could give you Wi-Fi. So like that, I keep on collecting gadgets that give give something productive, add something to our lives.
It's a wrap up, Neeraj. I'd request you to share your online addresses, uh, any website, anything that you'd like to share where people can reach out to you if they have any questions or want to interact with you.
Sure. So my best go-to place is my email, which is Neeraj Bassi, NEERAJ BASSI @gmail.com. So that's the best way to reach me. But I am active on Twitter a bit. On Facebook, I'm more active. So both handles have Neeraj Bassi as the name. Instagram, I try to be active, but not so much. And LinkedIn, I'm forced to be active because there's lots that's professionally going on there. But I forget. I do. Sorry, LinkedIn. I don't enjoy LinkedIn that much.
Yeah.
So, as you saw today's conversation, these conversations are totally spontaneous, and they cover aspects that sometimes the person talking about it is also not very familiar with, not very, it's not active thing on our head. So you get to hear a lot of things that you wouldn't have known otherwise. Would you have known that I got something done during boards? No, you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have expected it out of me also. So please do subscribe, like, and share to know the little secrets and a lot of inspirational stuff and stuff that you may like connecting with to Jagged with Jasravee.